On today's show, it is part 2 with myself and Glen Willis of ATL in 29. A little bit of a summer catch-up, all kinds of different topics, and part 2 is coming to you right now.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1775 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you here in late July, almost August at this point in time. And today's podcast is brought to the folks at FanDuel Sportsbook. And this summer, they're hooking us all up, every customer, with a boost or a bonus daily. Something for everyone, every day, all summer long. And the place to go is FanDuel.com to get started. I also want to encourage you at the top of the podcast to make it your first listen each and every day. Please go ahead and subscribe to this podcast anywhere you might find podcasts on the audio side or as well as on YouTube, and tell your friends about the show. This is part 2. I'll stop you right now and just say that if you missed part 1, I recommend starting with that conversation. It's myself and Glen Willis, but it's a two-parter. Part 1 is the best place to start. This is part 2 that you're about to listen to right now, and we cover all kinds of ground with Glen on part 1 and part 2. So without any further delay, here we go. We'll dive back in with part 2 with myself and Glen. Quickly, we're in the middle of the Olympics, right? It's happening now.
There we are.
I have pledged to not do game-by-game coverage of the two Hawks players. But Dyson Daniels is playing for Australia. Bogey's playing for Serbia. As we're talking now on Monday night, Dyson has played one game in the Olympics. It came against Spain. He looked awesome in that game. He's looked very good in the run-up. Bogey's kind of Bogey. I mean, if you have thoughts on Bogey, please feel free to share them. But we know about Bogey as long as he's healthy. Knock on wood, he's fine. But Dyson looks great, and I'm not surprised, but I think Hawks fans that are seeing more of him than they ever had before, man, this guy. Now it's FIBA, big difference. Like Patty Mills looks great in FIBA too, you know what I mean? But I like Dyson Daniels a lot, and I am very encouraged. I wonder how much you've watched and how much you are excited along with everybody else.
Yeah, I watched as much as I could, and in a sense, I mean, what a great opportunity for Hawks fans to get to see him before we get to preseason, right? That's great. I know I did some video breakdown of what he did last year. He's so, the word I use, he's just so resourceful. Like his technique on defense is so good. He's so versatile defensively. I mean, his technique playing point of attack, defending ball handle is about that. His technique template is basically perfect. I mean, he plays with his chest, his hand technique keeps his hands where they're supposed to be. He moves his feet, slides. He knows how to use his length, and he's just a completely disruptive defender in that way. On offense, he knows what he's good at. This is, if we go back, I mean, we can kind of unpack why did they draft Risacher. Risacher knows what he's going to be asked to do. He's going to embrace that role. And we can talk about that with other guys too. It's the reason that you have interest in maybe bringing back Dylan Windler. Like he knows what he's good at. And having in your depth pieces, now Dyson's not a depth piece. Dyson to me is a starter on this team. To me, right? He's a starter on this team. But having guys who know what you're good at and leaning into doing the things that you're good at is so helpful to you in terms of wins and losses. Right? He's not going to try to do things he's not good at. He's going to be a secondary creator. He's a good offensive rebounder. He's a cutter. He just finds little ways to do helpful things. I know this name is kind of creates a weird reaction, but it's a little bit of a guard version of Al Horford, where Horford just nonstop all the time is doing little things to help his team all the time, right? And Daniels has a bit of that game too as well. There's the extra pass or the cut or the screen or getting organized on the weak side. All the little smart things that he does. It's just really, really high-level stuff. And I think the key for him being a guy who's going to start, play 33, 34 minutes potentially, that's Quinn's decision. We don't know that. That's what I expect at this point in time. But is how consistently can he execute the offensive role that they need? Because, again, you and I talked about it after the trade. The key is, can he scale this up to starter level? He's never done that before, right? Mm-hmm. Not over a prolonged period of time. And the defensive stuff, I don't really worry about at all, right? There is a wear and tear factor to being the guy 33 minutes a game that he hasn't had to do that. So there's the physical toll that comes with that and learning how to manage your body through that physical demand defensively. On the offensive side is how can he become a consistent producer and contributor and being constructive, doing the things that he's good at. And I mean, he's 21, but he's such a smart player. I'm so excited to have him on the Hawks and to have a legitimate point of attack defender to watch this coming season. Just feels like something this is refreshing. So hopefully Hawks fans are getting to watch him too. I know the games, depending upon your ability to stream it or whatever, weird times and stuff like that, things like that sometimes can make it a little bit hard to be accessible. But I mean, to me, he has the chance to be an All-NBA defender in a year or two. That's his level of impact defensively if he can scale up and be consistent with the minutes being scaled up.
Yeah, I mean, the defense, I agree. There's not really a concern at all other than, like you said, the wear and tear. And he's shown that he has been swallowing guys up in FIBA play. And it's not surprising to see, like, some of these guards are not NBA guards, to be fair, but like he looks great against NBA guards too. So, and that's on film from the back to the NBA. Like I have no uncertainty at all about his defense. But he shot the ball aggressively and well. Not huge volume, but I think he was 3 for 4 from 3 in the first game. I'm not saying that's you throw a party there, but I think he looks confident right now as a shooter, which is good. There's going to be I can already see this happening. There will be a Quinn encouraging Dyson to shoot confidently storyline in October. He's going to want him to bomb away. And that's the one thing about Dyson's game right now. That's a question. The biggest thing probably is 3-point shooting. It hasn't been great so far in NBA, but he will shoot. He's not a complete non-shooter. We've seen that so far with Australia. And I just know how this is going to be. I mean, they're going to be telling him from the day he gets there, we want you to shoot. And then you hope it goes in, but that will be an emphasis. We already kind of know that. By the way, just to say as a caveat, we're recording this Monday night. Australia plays Tuesday morning. So people listen to this podcast, he might have already played again in a second game. Just want to say that out loud. That might happen between recording and when you're listening to this. But he's going to be – hopefully Australia keeps playing because that would be good to see him more and more. I mean, we talked about Bogey had 14 against the U.S. the other day. He had 19 the game before that against Greece. He looks like Bogey to me. They're not pushing him hard, which I appreciate. I think the Hawks probably appreciate too. He's not played 40 minutes a game like he might. I will say, if Serbia makes the knockout round, I would be a little worried about how much he's going to play in the knockout round. When games matter, he is so clearly their second best player behind Jokic and their best creator. Like, they're going to have to play through Bogey a lot, which I know is going to scare some Hawks fans because of the knee stuff. But it's one big exercise of holding your breath on Bogey, basically, in Hawksland.
Yeah, and it's also you're not learning anything about Bogey when you watch him. If you're a Hawks fan, if you're someone who regularly watches, I watched Bogey throughout his career, and I have ties to Sacramento. I saw him play in Sacramento like 20 times, like before he ever even got to the Hawks. And so it's we're not learning anything about Bogey. Bogey's awesome. Bogey's so good at the things he's good at.
Well,
so helpful.
It is. You and I know this because people that listen to this podcast probably know. But I'm sure there are some newer Hawks fans that listen to the show. Thank you for being here, and also some people that watch every single game. Like I do think there is a disconnect between how good Bogey is if you watch him every day to nobody thinks that Bogey's not good, but I think he's still underrated nationally. Like he's
for sure.
That's the reality. So maybe that kind of breaks through a little bit more this summer as he's on a prominent team next to Jokic because he's the only other guy that people recognize really on that team, and he'll get attention for that. He'll make some big shots, but it's not about this necessarily. But I thought he was the best reserve in the NBA last year, like pretty clearly. Some people agree with me. I know he got first place, but I think my guy Tim Bontemps voted for him. Maybe Kevin Pelton, a couple other guys, but he didn't get the groundswell that he probably should have. And I think that he's just so really, really, really good. And honestly, I think he's their third best player right now, like pretty clearly. That's him and Jalen, like after Trey. But he's not discussed that.
I mean, how many guys like that shoot at a high level on movement? I mean, it's a short list, right? It's a very short list of guys that do that. And then just the high IQ. And he has a little floater. Like if you chase him off the 3-point line, it's funny. Like 2 years ago, he didn't really have this to the degree he does now. But last year, like teams were like the Hawks don't have the other teams were like, you don't have another shooter on the floor. We're chasing Bogey off the 3-point line, and he get his little floater. He got pretty consistent with that, and so he had another thing to get to when he got chased off the 3-point line, and just super smart. So we could sit here and try to really bore everybody by trying to list like who are the 12 best movement shooters in the league. He's I don't know what that number is, but he's top 10. He's top 10 in my mind. And yeah, exactly. And so I know there have been times when people have said because he's had rough stretches when the knee's been bothering him, and that happens where it's like, oh my God, Bogey's killing us, and it's like he'll come back around. Just give him some, he's good at what he does.
It's all help. It's all help with him. We all know that. But if he's feeling good, it's terrifying. So
I know my one of my favorite follows on Twitter, Lauren Gunn, Mavs voice out there and stuff like that. When after the DJ trade, they were like, "Oh, the Hawks are giving away players. Let's go get Bogey." And I just said, "No, man, not happening. Not happening. Not happening." I love Lauren. Yeah, I love Lauren, but I was like, "No, you're not getting it."
We'll save. I think we still have a Bogey capsule to do maybe later on this summer if we can, and we'll probably talk about him for an hour and a half somehow. Even though we probably just said all we have to say. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. It's summertime means baseball, basketball, and much more. You can bet it all at FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, and this summer, they're hooking us all up. Yes, all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. Something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Bet on all of your favorite players and teams with quick bets and live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and much more. They have all the stuff you're looking for across the board. Plus, it's really easy to use. They have over-unders, point spreads, money lines, player props, future bets, live betting, etc., etc. And they also have this really safe and secure app platform, and they also cover the entire range of sports as well. That includes the NBA, of course, as you're listening to this podcast, WNBA stuff, NFL, college football, Olympics, across the board. Lots of Olympic stuff at FanDuel, plus MLB, golf, tennis, soccer, auto racing, boxing, MMA, and many more sports. And now is an awesome time. Sign up with the folks at FanDuel Sportsbook, and the place to go is FanDuel.com to get started. One more time, just visit FanDuel.com to get started right now. Start making the most out of your summer with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Okay, let's get to Summer League before we get out of here. I know we've done a large preamble, but I didn't really do like a Summer League wrap-up necessarily. I did a little bit of my own stuff from Vegas, and then when I got home, and I wanted to ask somebody else. I've had some logistical challenges, so I haven't really been able to have guests on since you were on before Summer League, so it's been 3 weeks or so. Broadly, I guess, it was an injury-plagued Summer League, unfortunately, for the Hawks. Like, we didn't get to see as many guys play as much time as we were hoping. We came in when you and I talked. We were hoping to see Kobe. We talked about having the returning point guard and how that was going to, this whole thing about Kobe. And then the next day he was hurt. Risacher played 2 games. Jurcic played 5 quarters. Mo Gay missed some time at the end. EJ Liddell was no longer on the team. Like I could keep going on and on here, but it was not a total wash, I'll say, but it was still not as informative as I was hoping to be. But there's still stuff to talk about. So what was your biggest takeaway as far as like what did you see that you thought was meaningful?
Yeah, I mean, so there's 2 pieces for me. There's one piece is what did I think of the players who matter, right? That's one piece. The other piece is what were they running, and do I think that's suggestive of what they're going to run when they get into this season, right?
Yeah.
Quickly on the scheme side, we saw a lot of stuff on the weak side, split cuts, slot cuts, motion on the weak side, all that sort of stuff. And that stuff, I mean, we know Quinn believes in that stuff, right? And so we talked about it before on ATL 29 that one of my big questions is, how do you balance what Trey does so well, pick and roll, spread the floor, give him space, let him attack the defense, spread out, that sort of thing, with the other principles that Quinn really believes in. And so Quinn's got to figure out what is the formula, what is the general kind of formula to have the offense consist of enough of the different things that you want to kind of make it work. And I mentioned I think the last time we recorded, I said running middle pick and roll 20 possessions in a row is how you beat a bottom 10 defense in the league that just can't sees it coming, still can't do anything. The Hawks have been on the other end of that before.
I was going to say, something like the Hawks in some recent iterations.
For sure. Bogey's the low man, 8 possessions in a row. Oh my God, what are we doing? That kind of thing. And so, but when you're playing defenses that are like, we're not letting you Trey run in the middle. We're going to bring a second guy to the big. We're going to high wall the middle pick, whatever technique that they use, hedge it, whatever. and stuff like that. You've got to have other stuff that you can get to make that happen. And so it's just going to be interesting to me when we get to the preseason and to see, the starters will play they usually play 2 games in the preseason. It's the rule of thumb there, right? Is I'm anxious to see what are they running, what are they doing, and that sort of stuff. So that's interesting to me there too. The defense they ran was basically the defense they ran in College Park last year. And, the guards were great, kind of low man. There's help spacing was great, all that sort of stuff. And I know they didn't win a game, but they played well every game, right? They just didn't make shots in the fourth quarter. Their short clock execution was that's the one thing that was terrible the whole time, right? They never got it. In fact, I can't recall them having gotten it right a single time, And that's the summer league thing that kind of comes with that. More on the player side, Risacher is just he's more skilled right now than I expected him to be. And I've watched a lot of him play in EuroLeague, but I don't know that he was always kind of able to be featured in that way. His handle is more solid than I expected. His processing is already, pretty advanced. And it's one of those things where you watch him play, and again, like any casual watcher, especially one who's not a Hawks fan, it's going to be like, you watch the role he's in, and the disconnect is like, this is the first pick in the draft, and he's not like putting up 20 shots a game, whatever. Yeah. That's not what they drafted him to do. But I think him being a high level connective glue player, he's closer than I thought he was, based upon kind of what I saw. And the defense, like, he blew me away on defense. I mean, he absolutely blew me away on defense, And so, I was thinking, don't know about him playing a lot at the point of attack. No, I think he's going to be able to handle some, some primary workload defending ball handlers, this year. I don't know if that's right out of the gate in the season. But for me, I think, Risacher kind of opened my eyes, and that he's further along skill wise than I thought he was, based upon what I saw from his play in EuroLeague.
Yeah, he had such a, I won't say weird, but I've listened to some of the national conversations since then as I've been traveling, and no one was like he looks terrible. Like no one said that. It wasn't the coverage that Trey got. You remember the famous week of Trey Young is the biggest bust in the history of mankind coverage that happened after Salt Lake. And that didn't happen, but a lot of it was like very muted. And I get it. A lot of it's probably just that he didn't shoot well, and Risacher didn't shoot well, right? His shooting percentages weren't good. First thing you see, I get it. I thought he played well too, and I got some people, accusing me of like trying to explain it away. I'm like, no, I'm telling you what I see. Like, it's Summer League, number one. We told people before Summer League it wasn't going to be his best possible context. He's not the best Summer League player in the world. That was never going to happen. But they did encourage him to explore the space. Like, I think we saw him like take some shots off the dribble that he hasn't. They probably won't take a ton of during the season, if I had to guess. The passing played up. That's what got me. You talked about his defense. The passing was what I was most encouraged about, I think. Some of the live dribble stuff that he did. A couple of really good reads. A couple of actually got missed that didn't even turn to assists, but like some really good high level passes. I was like, oh, that's file that one away. I appreciate a good pass anywhere, and then defensively too. Like, yeah, he wasn't. You called it in the first game. He was getting attacked in a way that was personal. I would imagine at least they was trying to be attacked, and people were trying to bully him as the first pick in the draft, and he responded. Like, it wasn't like he was going back and it got 1-on-1, but like he held up, I think, and made the right reads and did the stuff that you want to see. And I fear this is never going to stop. We're never going to get away from the number one overall pick conversation with Risacher. It's just never going to stop, and it's going to drive me crazy for years and years and years. But he looked good to me. He really did. Like, I liked what I saw, other than the ball not going in, and that's correctable. Like, I'm not worried about his shooting necessarily. 2-point shooting might be a little bit concerning. We'll see. But I liked what I saw overall, and I'm not just saying that because I wanted to like it. You know what I mean?
I mean, and he has to adjust, like, the role they want him to play in Atlanta is different than EuroLeague. Like, in EuroLeague, he was cutting a lot. He was, he was doing a lot of kind of different stuff, and it's new stuff, new system. And the Hawks want him to be a volume shooter. That's going to take some time. That's what they want. And the most important thing is that he embraced that in the games that he played. He embraced that. He put the shots up, and that is step one towards becoming a volume shooter is just taking the darn shots, right?
Especially when they want you to. And he just to say that out loud, he took 8 per game in about 29 minutes, which is really good volume. Granted, it's 2 games. We understand that, but that's really good volume and what Quinn wants. And I don't know if you noticed this. I haven't talked to you about this. The Hawks kind of made it pretty loudly known with leaks and things that he is a wing. Like they view him as a wing. Like there was some talk about like maybe he could play some 4, all this stuff, and the Hawks were kind of not on the record, but like, some targeted leaks. Like no, he's a wing for us. Like, and I think it wasn't a coincidence that he started at the 2 next to Jurisic. That was maybe some messaging. I think he's a 3 personally as his primary position, quote unquote. But he's closer to 2 than 4. Like he's a wing, and they view him as a wing. I know he's 6'10", but they think he's just a wing, and that's interesting and notable. And they had, like you mentioned, defending point of attack, and like I think people got to get past the height. Like the fact that he's probably as tall as Okongwu or taller than Okongwu, and Okongwu's the center, so it's like all this fun stuff. But Risacher is a 2-3 for them right now, not a 3-4, not a 4. He's a 2-3.
And that lets him playing those positions, lets you get him on the ball defensively, which is what you want. The power forward is typically more of a supportive, kind of help defender, those sorts of things. The stuff that like DeAndre Hunter is so good at,
Well, and also physicality wise, not to cut you off, physicality wise, he's not there yet. The first thing Landry said was like he's got to get stronger. Yeah. Everyone knows that. Risacher said that too. Like, but that's
he said exactly. He said that. Right. He has said that. Right. I got to get stronger. So that's good news. Yeah.
Yeah. He absolutely knows that. And like I think down the line, maybe in 5 years, given his height, he could play some 4. I'm not saying he's never going to be able to play a 4. Like I think he can. In 5 years from now, when he puts on 30 pounds of muscle or whatever, over the next 5 years, then yeah. But I think being realistic about what he can and can't do, what his limitations are, because like I envision him trying to like pick your bulky power forward type and have him try to like one-on-one defend like LeBron. Like good luck. That's not gonna happen. no one can guard LeBron. To be fair, he's the first guy I thought about. I was thinking about the Olympics. I was looking at my notes. I saw Olympics and I thought LeBron, and that was unfair. But you know what I mean.
Yeah. Out there dealing with Jaren Jackson Jr. Playing his minutes at the 4 or what have you. But I mean, he is the guy that when you go small, eventually you're going to want him to be able to play the 4, right? Everybody's sliding up a position, right? Maybe you're playing Jaden at the 5 down the road, and he's at the 4, and you got 3 guards. Whatever it might look like. That's something that you want. They're probably a couple years away from really feeling that that's something that he's going to be ready for, but that's an option that you want. The other thing was, I thought Mo Gueye did some encouraging things. It looked clunky early, but they were. I mean, we talked about this. Like last year was mostly screen dive, screen short roll, screen slipping screens, brush screens, all that sort of stuff. But in this setting, he was handling the ball more. He was facilitating a little bit more and things like that. And I just thought he got incrementally better every game at that stuff. And I think he needs another. I know Hawks fans are like, start making the backup 4. I personally don't think he's ready for that.
Me either.
Could he get there at some point this season? It's conceivable that he could get there at some point this season. But to me, I think he needs one more season that's fully focused on development, right? He couldn't stay on his feet. Like he was he kept. I mean,
that first game
part of this, right? And was kind of present the whole time and stuff like that. So I think he has a lot of potential, but I think he needs one more season that's fully about prioritizing his development, and that's where having a guy like Roddy might let you play Roddy as your next power forward on your bench for 2 months, 3 months, and then if Mo Gueye's ready in February, great, But I don't think the Hawks can kind of plan for him to be a in your 10-man rotation or whatever to start the season. I wouldn't think. I don't think he's ready for that. But he flashes so much high-level athleticism and speed, and that you want to invest in that development. He's definitely very much a guy you want to prioritize in your development system. And so that was good. And the other thing was just watching Keaton completely wreck every ball screen. It felt like he had a 92%. If you were measuring or whatever, he'd be like, nope, you're not getting to your screen. Nope, you're not getting to your screener. And the last game I watched, I sat right behind Sam Vecini. It was, and he overheard me talking about Keaton. He was like, oh, I love Keaton, and was sitting next to my good friend Dane Warren, and then we were just laughing, like watching Keaton, like his ball hand, the guy he was guarding could never get to the screen, could never get the angle he wanted. Yeah, and so for me, I think Keaton's a guy. He might close in the fourth quarter a defensive possession. And he be the guy where you roll out in a defensive possession when you're 20 seconds to go, you're up 2 points. So he's a guy like, hey, Keaton, let's go put you on the ball out there, that sort of thing. And I loved his pull. His pull of shooting was really impressive. I mean, really impressive. But if NBA teams trusted his point guard offense more, he wouldn't be on a 2-way contract right now. Yep. But give him a year or two, and he might be playing regularly for some team, whether it's the Hawks or someone else, because what he can do defensively with his size and just his technique and how non-stop disruptive he is, teams value that. And it's hard to find that in guys who can play point guard defense. That's hard. What he does defensively is really hard to find in guards. And so that having him available is, I think, a huge value. He's the guy I probably enjoyed the most.
Yeah, I mean, two things there, because I love Keaton too. I know I was probably too effusive during the summer league, being out there. I talked to him like 3 different times, and he was really good. I mean, he earned the 2-way. It was funny timing. He had the first game. He played really well in like an hour. I was driving back to my hotel from the arena when I got the notification, like, oh, the 2-way happened, because I heard during the game that they might sign 2-way. Just it wasn't reportable, but I was like, I got a text and I was okay, I might be doing this, and then I started laughing because I saw it and I was like, well, I kind of heard this might be happening, but it happened that fast because he was so good.
It felt like they were like, oh no, everybody saw what he can do. We better get contracts,
well, And that happens in summer league. I mean, you know this. You've been around summer league.
Yes.
It happens summer league. Like almost every night, you get somebody signs a 2-way contract that had a good game that day somewhere in the league. Like it's what happens, and it's fine. I'm with you. His ball handling is not like incredible. Like he's more of a combo guard offensively, I would say, but defensively, really, really good. And the shooting played up, and the passing was good. I think he averaged 6 assists a game. Like I think he made the right reads. Him and Jarkel Joyner was like Ronald Norred's dream, because Ronald Norred, if you don't know him, played at Butler for Brad Stevens and was this tiny on-ball pesky guard. And like the one thing that he got, that Ronald, who's very polished, very Hawksy in summer league, not really saying much, kind of the same lines you might hear. The one time he got a little bit animated was talking about Jarkel Joyner and Keaton Wallace. And it was like, I wonder why. It's because he's just what you were. And he couldn't contain his excitement about Joyner and Wallace one night. So that was fun. To the Mo Gaye point real quick, before I forget to say this, it's very similar to Kobe, the conversation. Very similar to Kobe. Not exactly the same, but the idea of Mo, second-year player, hasn't played a lot because of injuries and opportunity and all that stuff. I think Kobe is more likely to help them this year than Mo is, personally. But it's like people that want, if you went up the depth chart and you get excited, it's like, oh, Mo Gaye, backup power forward. And yeah, if you did the depth chart right now and just like didn't want to include DeAndre Hunter at the 4, or didn't want to include Dave Roddy at the 4, maybe you get to Mo Gaye behind Jalen Johnson. But he's not ready for that. I mean, I know he had to play at the end of last season out of absolute emergency, but I think the Hawks would acknowledge that Mo's not quite there yet. One question on that I actually wanted to get to you on. It's always funny with the position stuff with Mo, because the Hawks have made great pains to tell everyone that he's not a center, right? Like he's played a little bit of center, but he, despite being the tallest guy on the roster, which he has been for the last year, he's not a center. They were starting him.
He played no center in summer league, 0.
Well, that's what I was going to say. They started him next to Rob Baker at summer league, which was another not so subtle reminder that they think he's a power forward. He played a little bit of like some tiny center on offense at summer league, but defensively he really wasn't anchoring. And just to say that out loud, and honestly for this team, given their aforementioned center logjam, it's almost better that way for him that he's not playing center, because he would never play if he was playing center. Because they have three guys ahead of him, plus Bruno, plus Zeller, plus all this stuff. But I just want to acknowledge that too, because it's like it's an interesting role he's in, because he's got center length. Everyone knows that, and some center instincts in some ways. But he also likes to make a move on the perimeter, likes to shoot a pull up 3. Like he has a little bit of the Alex Sarr on offense, where he likes to be on the perimeter a little bit. Not quite as bad as Alex Sarr at summer league, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yes. Alex Sarr's gonna be fine.
I agree.
But But I mean, Mo's the guy you want to lean into the ball handling potential, the creation potential, you want to lean into that, and so I thought that's good. But he's a full year away from kind of having any chance to do that. He should play a lot at College Park again this year, probably.
And he always was, by the way. Like, you and I know this, but just to say out loud, the Hawks were not drafting Mo Gueye as a short-term play. That was we love your tools long-term bet in the 30s. They gave him a multi-year contract for a reason. That was hopefully he hits and takes off later on. But they were and just to say this out loud too, all the injuries last year hurt him, obviously. I mean, that's just the reality. Like, there's nothing you can do about that. But he effectively lost the whole season. Like, he basically didn't play basketball for 4 months? Like, he couldn't do anything with the back. And when he came back, it was, March or April, and he played a little bit. But this is like almost like he's going to be a rookie again. Like, Kobe ended up playing a decent amount of minutes between College Park and when he got back. Mo barely played at all. 10 games, something like that, all year long.
Yeah. And then I would be ashamed of myself I didn't mention Mr. Miles Norris. Just your
guy. I was going to end with that if you didn't bring it up. Because the first game. Just so you know, okay, I'm setting the stage for everybody here. If you're not on Twitter, Glenn was live tweeting this as well, but I saw Glenn in Las Vegas, and I thought Glenn was going to run on the court and embrace Miles Norris during the first Summer League game, because no one was more excited about his defensive rotations than Glenn was in that building. I tell you that. I'm actually not kidding. There probably was no one in that building, and Hawks personnel included, more excited about Miles Norris' defense in that first game than Glenn was. I'm just saying.
Yeah, one thing I tweeted was he does literally everything perfect. In terms of, I mean, he knows what's going on every second. He knows when one of his teammates is not in the right place. I mean, you watch him play, and you're like, this is a future coach. If he wants that lifestyle, right? Yeah. Coaching is hard. Coaching is a hard life.
Coaching is hard. Yeah.
But I mean, and so I mean, he just always would help his teammates. And you're watching a guy, and it's like he's not under contract, and. Is he going to get the other two-way? I don't know. Is Seth Lundy going to get the other two? I don't know what's going to happen there. I think you would love to keep him in your organization just because the leadership and just the professionalism and all that sort of stuff find a way there. But he's a guy. It's like you watch him play, and it's like you understand why he doesn't really get up to play in the NBA. He's just not. I mean, he's a 4, right? Mm-hmm. And he's 210. I don't know what he weighs, right? He's just not the biggest guy. Yep. Right. And so, but I talked about this before, you and I talked about this when we previewed Summer League, like the teams that are producing guys who move from being an undrafted free agent or a late second round pick, whatever, into being a rotational guy, you keep those guys in your system 2 years, 3 years. It takes time to develop that, to produce that. And I don't know that like Miles Norris is like on that trajectory. But Miles Norris is a guy who helps another guy who has the physical, kind of template to be an NBA player. Miles can help the other guys you're trying to kind of produce there significantly, and in my way. So in my sense, like I accept that he's probably never going to, actually play regular NBA minutes. But when you look at what you're trying to produce in a developmental system, the professionalism, the leadership, the ability to help younger guys understand what we're doing in this situation, you can't really put a price on it. And so in that sense, I hope they find a way, and whether it's 2-way or, an Exhibit 10 contract that they secure him playing in College Park again, whatever it is. He's a guy that everyone appreciates in that sense, even if he's not a guy who's going to, be able to kind of play real regular minutes for your NBA team.
Yeah, my best guess, and look, it's still really early here, but my best guess, and the Hawks will probably get some Exhibit 10s. If you don't know what Exhibit 10 is, it's just guys get a little bit of money to come to training camp with basically the plan to cut them and then have their rights go to College Park. Norris could get it. They have 1 2-way left. If everybody doesn't know this, they have Seth Lundy on a 2-way and Keaton Wallace right now. They have Jurisic kind of hovering out there in the ether. I don't know what's going to happen there. I haven't heard anything yet. He had the injury, etc. So it could be Norris. But he's a guy they like organizationally, obviously. He was at College Park last year. Even after they cut him from the 2-way, he stayed around. They like him. Jordan Bowden's another name who played well at the end of Summer League.
Played really well.
Has some like 2-way potential as a wing. Like shot the heck out of it last year, actually, in College Park. And I know people don't watch College Park every night, but like has some real shooting bona fides.
And he did well as a point guard. I mean, in his point guard opportunity too. So it's a good. It's so funny because you go back, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years, and the Hawks. I mean, honestly, the Hawks were always pretty underwhelming who they were getting on 2As. Right now you're like, we got to make hard choices. That's where you want to be. You want to have 4 or 5 guys that are like, he would be good, he would be good, he would be good, and that's what you want, right? And when you look at what Ryan Schmidt did with College Park last year, you want guys who are going to say, I want to go play with College Park because they might help me become an actual NBA player. That is not what they were prior to last season at all.
They should go ahead. They should go ahead and have Vit Krejci do a talk to any free agent that says, this is what College Park can do for you. I just signed a 4-year contract when I was out of the league, because people have forgotten that Vit was out of the league. Vit was on the Iowa Wolves G League team, unaffiliated, in the middle of last season. Went to College Park, and then by the end of the year was in the rotation and was going to definitely be all that stuff. And that's not, obviously, a lot of that credit goes to Vit. It's not like he's obviously worth crediting too, but that system, Kobe improved a lot there. We've said it all before, but it helps to get a good reputation. They're not quite Miami as far as what people say about them around the league, but a couple more years of this and you'll start getting more attention.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And then the other piece is, Jurisic, the injury, the surgery kind of stinks. So I think he has a decision to make on what he wants next season to be for himself. He can make more money in Europe. There's no doubt about that, than being on the 2A with the Hawks, right? Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, do the Hawks want to kind of control his rehab, his recovery, and those sorts of things? So
the roster crunch again. I mean, not to go back to that, but if the Hawks had roster spots coming out of their eyes, they could just give him the Gueye contract, a couple non-guaranteed years, pay him rookie minimum this year to be around, but they just don't have nowhere to put him. Like they got 16 guys right now before you get to him. And maybe they clear out some roster spots, but you're also paying a guy who probably won't be able to play for a while. Like the Hawks, I know I said it on the show, but kind of cryptically said November was when they'll kind of reevaluate him again. And people were like, November? Like it's July. What are we talking about? But that kind of tells you he won't be around for camp. And if you miss camp as a rookie, like you're not going to do anything.
And here's the thing, like, look, you go back a number of years, the Hawks were filling the 13th and 14th and 15th spot with veterans. In a lot of cases, like guys who you really don't want them to play. Get in the locker room, this is a good problem to have, like 16, 17, 18 guys and have a hard time cutting down to 15. It to me, you're empathetic for the guys who might end up on the side where they get cut, right? But this is where you want to be as an organization, where you're having to make hard choices with the roster spots that you have. You don't want to be like, well, we got to 12, and now let's go find 3 random dudes that are just not going to be upset if they don't play.
That's the Bucks. And, that's the Bucks every year right now have 11 guys, and they got to go find 4 minimum somewhere. No, the Hawks only have one guy on their roster right now that's like in that mold, and that's Zeller. And he's an NBA player. He's a professional player. Like it's not like he's not been on teams. Like, and he's the only. I'm looking at the roster right now. He's the only guy on the roster at the moment that you would maybe put in that category of like, we kind of don't want to play you. But everybody else, they got 15 guys. I mean, if you include Bruno, who you and I like, and Garrison, and you look down the roster, David Roddy, who we led this podcast with, Vit Krejci, like they don't have anybody that you don't have any interest in playing. It's like they have, there's depth and there's good depth and all that stuff. And last year, I did a whole rant about this last week on the show about like depth charts and what they tell you about a team. And it came up with Tyus Jones. It's like, why do we need this guy? I was like, well, you get an injury to Trey, and I'll ask you again if you want Tyus Jones. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. Like you can't assume health. I think hopefully last year was a reminder of that. You can't assume health to your rotation guys. If you get 1 or 2 injuries, is it just going to wreck you, or is it not?
Yeah, and to me, that's where I know, like because of the path to where the front office is where they are now. There's all the different like, how much is the owner involved? How much is like there's all this narrative around this. But when you look at the pipeline that they have with players right now, and you look at the options that they've built up, they've done an impressive job building real depth. real depth into the roster that they're approaching for this season. Now we'll see if they can get the top 8 to 9 guys to play like a 46 to 48 win team as opposed to a play-in team or whatever that is, right? We'll see whether the top 8, 9 guys are good enough to get 6, 7, 6, with some luck, maybe a little higher, that sort of thing. But this is what you want. This is where you want to be. You want to have 20 guys that you look at and you go, yeah, like 18 of these guys could play for us and we wouldn't be embarrassed about that at all.
Yep.
That's not where this organization has been until now.
Nope. We agree. And I thought it was kind of you, and I'll follow your lead to not name any names from previous years. Anyway, well, Glenn, we could keep talking forever because that's what you and I do, but I won't make you keep doing that. Either maybe right before you leave or when you get back, we might at some point we're planning to reconvene our player capsules. We have a few more left. I'm looking at the list right now. We have not done, so people know, we have not done Veet. We have not done Kobe, which is like the Glenn wheelhouse episode.
That'll be 3 episodes.
Onyeka, we have not done yet on purpose because we thought he's going to be around. Bogey, who we teased earlier, Trey, and Jalen are the ones we don't have yet. So we still have.
Are we going to put Dyson Daniels on the list?
We could do Dyson. I was going to ask you that offline. We can talk about it. We can program the show online. We could do a Dyson episode. That will require the most effort in the history of the player capsules because we won't have the same built-up knowledge that we already have on the other guys from watching all the tape already.
You have one listener out there who's mad that we're not going to do a Zeller capsule. You have one listener out there.
Someone will tell me who that is. That we maybe. I mean. Look, maybe we could do a condensed Zeller Roddy pod. We kind of just did our Roddy one at the beginning of this podcast, honestly, for about 15 minutes. But Zeller, Roddy, Keaton, Wallace. We kind of did Seth Lundy with our at the beginning of this one. Anyway, we have more to come. So if Glenn is willing to do that, we'll spend some time in August and September doing that kind of ahead of training camp in chunks as we possibly can. But as people listen to this podcast know, when Glenn and I talk, we might plan to do 30 minutes and it's going to be an hour. If we plan to do an hour, it's going to be longer than that. So we just can't help ourselves. We're sickos. And this is why I appreciate Glenn's work so much. Glenn, anything to plug before we get out of here? We already talked about your podcast. We should do it again, though. It's a good podcast.
ATL 29. Yeah, come listen to me and Tyler and, a little bit of
occasionally Kevin.
We've got to feature him. I feel bad like every time, but he's so kind. He's so kind, and he's so smart. Like he really knows.
Kevin's the best.
We've got to get that part figured out. It's been awesome having Tyler back, and I mean everyone loves Tyler. Tyler
the best.
Brings just so much more energy and entertainment value that Kevin and I are never, as 2 old white dudes, are never going to summon up, right? And so it's a great way to round out what Kevin and I didn't naturally, kind of bring, but we're still working on it, that sort of thing. So
no,
you got to get Kevin back on this. So
I was going to say I try not to ask Kevin. I try not to ask Kevin to come on because he's got his own show, but then I'm like, all right, maybe we could talk a little bit more and. You'll appreciate this, and then we'll sign off. I occasionally will get a question about why Tyler and I talk over each other. And I said, well, part of that is that it's supposed to be free-flowing. Tyler is like the one like Hawks fan I have on the podcast. Like it's a great dynamic we have. And the second thing is that if I don't cut Tyler off, I'll never get to speak. And it's my podcast. So if I just let Tyler go forever, and I can have a sandwich, I can have coffee. He's probably listening to this right now. I can
take a nap.
Well, it's you guys have more of a free flowing. I have to hit ad breaks and stuff. Like, there's no way if I don't chime in, it's not. We're never gonna get it done. So you guys are free guys.
Tyler is the ultimate smart fan. Well, like the ultimate smart fan, right? Yeah, love Tyler. I love him unconditionally. Love having him back on ATL 29. He's hilarious to watch live tweet games sometimes, especially when the things are not going well. It's kind of fun to follow along there. But come listen over there, and then I always try to promote Wes and the team at Peachtree Hoops. Like, please support those guys, and then all the other wonderful podcasts that are out there. There's just a lot of good Hawks podcasts out there. I try to on Twitter promote the good work other people are doing out there as well. So I like to. I don't really feel like I need to promote myself. I'm trying to promote myself plus find an opportunity to promote the others, the new content producers out there that deserve attention and support too. So go find them. Yeah, because they do. There's other good stuff out there, and they deserve our support.
Yeah, for sure. Big tent, plenty of room for everybody on Hawks coverage. You mentioned Wes. They've been doing dream coverage at Beach Hoops, which I always wanted to do.
Awesome.
Never could do, and
Yes.
I'm glad they're doing that. Getting good shine from SB Nation. I saw something Wes wrote today made the rounds at SB Nation, which was good to see. Anyway, check out everybody. One more rec for ATL on 29. That's Glenn gives me so much time. Even when Kevin talks, it's a great podcast. No, I love you, Kevin. Pulling up my heart on the YouTube broadcast. Thank you, Glenn, for being here. If we don't talk again before your vacation, enjoy your vacation. And as for everybody else, please subscribe to this show, to ATL on 29. Follow Glenn on Twitter. Follow me there if you want to. Follow Locked On Hawks if you want to. And we'll see you all next time.